love about real estate is you can practice R&D, right? And in the corporate world, that's research and development. To me, R&D is rip off and duplicate,
Yeah.
meaning real estate, there's nothing new in real estate. It's all been done. Everyone's
Yeah.
figured it out. All you have to do is go find somebody who's already gotten to where you want to be, study what they're doing or what they did, and then just go execute it.
Yep.
And that's what I love about real estate. I didn't have to be super creative I'm an engineer, right? So show me the steps, and okay, I can go copy those. I can go do that. And real estate really is about the execution.
Welcome to the Threefold Real Estate Investing Podcast. This is the podcast where you'll not only learn how you can achieve massive success in multifamily real estate investing, but also how you can simultaneously pursue great relationships with your family and a better walk with God. You can achieve financial freedom through real estate investing without sacrificing the relationships that mean the most to you. Now, here's your host, Lee Yoder.
Welcome back, Threefold listeners. I hope you're having a great week this week. We've got a really great guest today. I'm really excited to have a guy that I've gotten to know pretty well over the past couple of years. I was in a mastermind that he led. His name is Andrew Cushman. Many of you have probably heard of him if you've been interested in real estate and maybe trying to get educated listening to real estate podcasts like Bigger Pockets. I consider someone that's been on Bigger Pockets to have kind of made it. If you've been on a couple times, you must be like a real big deal. Andrew, you've been on like 5, 6, 7. So what does that mean for you?
I guess
level.
I guess I've fooled a few people or something. I don't know.
That's fooled. Yeah. I would say you're a friend of the show by now. I mean, it at least says that about you, but
it feels like it. Yeah.
Yeah. So a little bit about Andrew real quick, and then we'll kind of jump into some stuff, but he's a former chemical engineer who found his entrepreneurial calling in real estate. In 2007, he left his corporate position to start a business in real estate investment, starting off flipping single-family properties in Southern California, where he lives. Sensing a shift in the market in 2011, he transitioned to multifamily acquisitions and has successfully syndicated and repositioned over 2,600 multifamily units. He's a frequent guest and panelist on real estate podcasts like Bigger Pockets, like I just mentioned. Outside of the business world, Andrew has been a certified alpine ski instructor, and when not working in real estate, enjoys surfing, backcountry skiing, and trying not to be outwitted by his 2 children. Me as well. I'm trying not to be outwitted by my 2 children. So,
it's
Andrew,
an ongoing
awesome
battle.
Yeah, so glad to finally get you on the show. Thanks for joining us today.
I'm glad to be here, Lee.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Andrew, take us back real quick. We'll kind of jump through your story pretty quick, but maybe take us back all the way to 2007, maybe. But what got you so interested in real estate or confident enough in it to leave your corporate position? Sound like a pretty good career. Why did you give all that up and jump all into real estate?
Chemical engineering was a placeholder from day one. When I was in high school, I knew I wanted to have my own company or business, but I had no idea what that looked like or how to do it. So I figured, well, if I go to college and get an engineering degree, I'll always have a decent job and a decent income. Yeah. So that's what I did. Got out, started working as an engineer. Got married a few years later. My wife had the same outlook and mentality. And about 3 years after we got married, our first business was born. And that's how, people are like, why did you wait so long to have kids? Well, we had businesses first, and that's kind of the same. So, we were both looking for whatever we could do to have our own business and leave our corporate world. And then again, not that the corporate world's terrible or our jobs were terrible. We just wanted to do something different.
What is it about that, Andrew? So you guys both had that. Why did you both know that you wanted to have your own business?
I think it boils down to the freedom and the autonomy, the ability to determine your own schedule, the ability to do work that is not always, but almost always rewarding or aligned with your goals. And also, if you do it well, you're not financially capped. I mean, if you're in you're a middle manager in a huge corporation, you can get promotions, you can move up, but odds are you're not going to 10x your salary in 5 years.
Yep.
And when you have your own business, yes, there's a risk of going to 0 or negative, but there's also the ability to hit 10x or 20x or 100. So it's unlimited. And so that all of those things that having your own business provides, and I think real estate in particular is really good at that.
Yeah.
Is a motivating factor.
Got it. Okay. So that was the motivating factor kind of for both of you. Maybe you hit higher on different ones of those that you mentioned, but you both had that. So yeah, tell us about how that got started and maybe why you picked real estate to take your entrepreneurial journey into.
I picked real estate because I'm not smart enough to figure out anything else. Like whenever I hear about these guys, or I'm in GoBundance and I meet these guys, I started a software company and I sold it for 20 million, and or I created a chain of 30 pharmacies and sold that for I don't know how to do that. What I love about real estate is you can practice R&D, right? In the corporate world, that's research and development. To me, R&D is rip off and duplicate, meaning real estate, there's nothing new in real estate. It's all been done. Everyone's figured it out. And, all you have to do is go find somebody who's already gotten to where you want to be, study what they're doing or what they did, and then just go execute it. And that's what I love about real estate. I didn't have to be super creative I'm an engineer, right? So show me the steps and I can go copy those. I can go do that. And real estate really is about the execution. So one day I was walking through the break room at work and I saw a Wall Street Journal business section had been left on the table. And the front page of that business section had an article about flipping houses. And I said, oh, interesting. I took it home, read it, and gave it to my wife. She read it. And, we kind of, we could probably do that. We live in Southern California. So anyway, long story short, we looked up the person who was doing it, and basically just like went through all their material, started working 2 jobs, meaning I would work on the single family flipping business before work, during lunch, and after work, and all day, 16-hour days on the weekends. And it took 6 months to get our first deal. I was not good at it. I had to make 4,576 cold calls to get it. I heard you say it
before. I forgot about that.
Yeah, but the thing is that's one of the tough things is, well, okay, how do you know when to quit, right? Well, the thing is I knew that the system worked, and it was the thing that determined the success was my ability to execute the system. There was no question of does the system work, and that was the difference. It was just a matter of working on myself until I got the successful.
And that's because so many guys and girls have had success in the past, Andrew.
Yeah, exactly. And that was part of our vetting process. We talked to people who'd done it. We knew other people who'd done it. We'd hired a coach who was in the process of doing it. So it was like there's no question it could be done. It was just, do we have the discipline to improve ourselves enough to be able to execute? And so when we got the first deal and flipped it, we made as much as I made all year at my job.
Wow.
And so I said, well, it's not going to be any better time to leave than that. So I walked in and said, hey, it's been great, but I'm going to do something else. And I stayed for a couple of months to help them wrap some things up, and then walked out of my job in 2007, right as the Great Recession hit. It was actually a great time to do it because we had no competition. No one else wanted to buy anything in real estate. So we'd just buy for 50 cents on the dollar, fix it up and sell it for 80. Never lost money on a flip. Never took more than 30 days to sell them. There's no such thing as a bad market, just a bad strategy. So you just adjust the strategy. That was great, but it was also kind of a brutal job. And so 2010, we said, hey, we just had a huge recession, which means we're probably going to have a long expansion. Half the country got foreclosed on, which means they can't buy a house for 7 years. The other half scared to buy a house. So that means we're going to have a whole bunch of renters and household formation and rising incomes. Apartments will probably do pretty well in that environment. So in 2010, we went and found a mentor in apartments and learned the business from him. Our first deal, we syndicated 92 units out in Macon, Georgia, on the other side of the country. And went full time after that, and a little more than a decade later, I'm talking to you. So,
well, back real quick, Andrew. When you left, do you and your wife have a similar risk tolerance? I mean, you're both interested in being entrepreneurs, so I'm assuming maybe a little bit. But was she anxious about you leaving her job? Did she stay with her job for a little bit longer? What was that like?
She did stay with hers for 2 more years, so that we kind of had a transition. How we looked at it is. And that's a good point. A lot of times you hear people get, just quit your job and do it. No, have runway, have a cushion, because it took another 6 months to get the next deal.
Okay.
And that deal, we only made $4,500, right?
Okay.
That doesn't go a long way for living expenses in Southern
Nope.
California.
Nope.
So, now the third one, the one after that, got back to a very healthy margin, and then it was very consistent after that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did have her. She stayed for 2 more years until we were very stable, and then she could quit and help me and join the business as well. What's interesting is I would say on average have similar risk tolerance, but there's different points where we each might hesitate, but the other one is encouraging, no, this is okay,
Yeah,
or go
that's
forward and
nice.
do this. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes a good team then. Okay. So you transitioned, you went and got coaching again, Andrew. But that just seems like a huge jump. I know for me, I flipped just one house because back when I started in 2017, I was already listening to guys like you on Bigger Pockets say, go bigger, multifamily is where it's at. So I kind of knew I wanted to go there. So I did one flip, just kind of learned that lesson that you learned, like, this is great. It's real estate and you can make money at it, but it's not investing. It's a job. It's a different way to trade time for money. Maybe great entry point. So I did one, and then I was ready to get into multifamily. We did one duplex, and then I went to a 16 unit, and that just seemed like such a massive jump to go from 2 to 16. You went from 1 at a time to 92 and add in all the way across the country. So why and how did you overcome what I would think just would feel like a huge hurdle? How did you overcome that and actually take that down?
One, having a coach certainly helped, and the other,
Yep.
being naive and not knowing what I didn't know, helped a lot too.
Yeah.
But the reason for other side of the country is I'm a big believer in live where you enjoy living, but invest where the returns are the best.
Yep.
You can make a lot of money speculating on California real estate, but that's what you're doing. We wanted to invest in areas where we could have cash flow and depreciation and have some control over it. Also, we wanted to be in business friendly and landlord friendly environments, none of which can be said about California.
Yeah.
So and also the fundamental drivers of rentals, but especially apartments, are population growth, job growth, income growth. The Southeast US has decades long trends that are very strong, positive in favor of multifamily. So we said, all right, all the demographic trends are good here. It's business friendly, landlord friendly. The cash flows are good because properties aren't terribly expensive, or at least they weren't back then. This makes sense to go here. And also, it's the other side of the country, but even post COVID, there's still like 5 direct flights a day from Southern California to Atlanta. I can be there in 4.5 hour flight. And I've literally had something come up and been there the next day. So it's not hard to get to. Even though, again, it's a couple thousand miles away. So that was part of market selection, is like, where do we feel like the demographic trends are in our favor.
Yep.
And the second piece of why 92 units is, one of the keys to managing remotely and not being sucked into the day-to-day minutia of property management, which will hinder your ability to scale, is when you start getting close to 100 units, that's the size property that supports full-time on-site staff. So we knew if we go buy the first one that's 100 units, we can get a property manager on there, and we can get a full-time maintenance person on there, and they work for us, and that is their full-time job. So that was the reason we went straight for 100 units.
Okay, got it.
And candidly, it's the same amount of work whether you're taking down 20 or 200 units. So you might as well, if you're going to go through the trouble, you might as well go as big as possible within certain parameters. There's some fine details, but yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Was your coach a big part of that, Andrew, to decide, because you hadn't done it yet, to decide that you didn't want to manage yourself? Because I feel like so many people, if they're coming from single family flips, they just kind of naturally think like, well, I'll keep doing something, one, in my own area, but two, I'll kind of manage it myself to start, and then I'll grow bigger, and maybe I'll keep managing, maybe I'll hand off. You right away, you knew you wanted to get something bigger, and a big reason for that was because you wanted somebody else to manage it, and you wanted them to be able to do that well. And around 100 units is when they can start doing that well, because you can hire somebody on site. Was it coaching part of that decision there before you had even done it?
I don't know if the coaching was necessarily part of that. Basically, I just knew we didn't want to be, property management is a high headache, low margin business.
It's its own business.
It's completely separate business, and God bless the people who do it well. Yeah, especially when you just get into some of the HR stuff. And I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
But so what we did then, and essentially is very similar to what we do now, is really kind of a hybrid model. So yes, we have third party property management company that manages our assets. And like I said, they're responsible for payroll and the accounting and
Yep.
collecting rent from the lady in 3C whose dog bit the person in 3D and all that kind of
Oh
fun
yeah.
stuff.
Oh
They
yeah.
deal with all of that, but
Yep.
we very closely asset manage.
Yeah.
Our property managers have told us repeatedly, like, we have never met an owner group like you guys. And actually, they've told us that they really appreciate it and love it, because we make sure that we don't get in the way of our property managers. Like, we're not like taking money out of the bank account when they don't expect it. We're
Yeah.
not telling them how to
Right.
do the minutia of their job. But we have, for example, one of the things we do is weekly conference calls, most of them on Zoom, but not all of them, with our myself, our asset manager that we brought on a couple of years ago, and the on-site property manager, the maintenance people, and the regional for the for from the that covers that area. And every week we go over not just the property's performance, but renovation projects. What
Yeah.
challenges are they having? How can we help make their jobs easier? Because at the end of the day, you get these 5, 10, $50 million assets. How successful they are really boils down to the on-site people. Like
Yeah.
they have more, as important as we like to think we are, it's nothing compared to the people that are there every day, day in,
Right.
day out
Oh yeah.
running it.
Yeah.
And so we very closely are involved with them. Again, not the minutia, but in providing the vision, the guidance, trying to help them solve problems that are obstacles or holding them back, making sure that they've
Yep.
got all the resources. And then in return, they're helping us stay in touch with the market. And is it getting stronger? Is it getting softer? Are we getting a good return on these renovations? Should we stop them? Should we do something different? Just all of that. And another side benefit of that is we have extremely high team retention in
Yeah.
terms of our
That's
because they
important.
know that we very much value their input and the hard work that they do. So
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I definitely want to get into that, Andrew, because that's something I really hold you in high regard for is your ability to operate the properties. And I couldn't agree more that that is so important. I mean, unfortunately, probably if you've been investing in the last 3 years, especially, you haven't really had to learn that lesson very well because frankly, everything's gone up and you could, the market is probably taken care of like really bad asset managers. And you've still done well because it's just gone straight. But maybe, I mean, we're already at least starting to roll over a little bit, and how far we go down, who knows, but it's definitely stopped screaming higher. So I think we're going to maybe now find a time where you do have to be better asset managers, especially if we head into a recession, then it's really going to start to put some strain on. You're really going to have to manage your property well. So let's talk about that a little bit. And I'd like to start here, Andrew, where you're at today, over 2,500 units, you've got a team assembled. You've been working with the same property management company for a while. So I want to build up to that. But what did asset man for people that are nowhere near where you're at, and maybe they own one or two, or they're about to own their first one? What did asset management look like for you, and what should it look like for those starting out today, or maybe they just got started a year or two ago? What should asset management look like for them? What did it look like for you when you were, in your first couple years?
candidly, it really didn't look a whole lot different in terms of structure.
Okay.
So that
Yeah, good.
very first deal, and that candidly, that's how part of how we developed the system that we have today. It was like, wow, this works really well.
Mhm.
Where yes, we had third party management, but we acted like we didn't.
Okay.
Meaning, like I said,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
had, I had weekly calls with the team members, constantly so we hired for that first deal, we hired a former GC to live on site and coordinate the renovation. Right. It was a late 60s, early 70s property that had been neglected for 15 years. It needed a major overhaul.
Wow. Yeah.
And so we hired a guy to go live there and do that. And so, I was talking with him almost daily. I'd go out and visit the property every couple of months and just, very closely monitor. So even though technically we had third party, I was acting as if it wasn't. And what that
Yeah.
allowed us to do is it allowed me to focus on learning the ins and outs of property management and asset management while not worrying about trying to get Yardi to integrate with, Windows or, whatever, all that kind of
Yes.
garbage.
Oh yeah.
And the team on-site team members really appreciated it and liked it that way. And then, I found like, okay, this really works because we have a incredibly good grasp of what's going on the property. Our fingers definitely on the pulse, but we're not lost in the weeds. And so we just basically continued that as we grew of just um, you know being highly involved asset managers. And
Yep.
then said 3 years ago, got to the point where I could not do all of it myself. And candidly, that was one of my mistakes. I waited way too long to add some more people to the team.
Okay.
But so now there is somebody whose focus is helping with all that asset management, and there's a lot of aspects that she does it better than I ever did. And
Sure.
it's worked exceptionally well
Yeah.
for us. So
Yep. Yep. Yeah. And that just got to a point, Andrew, where there's too many weekly calls because there's too many properties and so too much going on for one person to handle. And maybe so what was that progression like? Like the first person you hired was just specifically an asset manager, and then you taught them, hey, here's how the weekly calls go, and this is what you do. And maybe how did you kind of start to build that team?
yeah, so I mean, and if I was starting over today from zero, I do the exact same thing. And
Yeah.
regardless of whether it's 100 units or 10 units, I would get third-party property management, but then very closely work with them. And also realize a lot of property management companies can't work that way.
Okay.
Because some owners get too involved and screw up the process.
Sure.
You got to be
Yes.
careful not to be a hindrance. So a lot of
Yep.
companies are like, nope, nope, you can't be on calls, and I won't work with them, and they probably wouldn't work with us. So you got to find
Yep.
the right management company that sees you as a strategic partner.
Yeah.
So if I was starting from zero, I would do the exact same thing. I would hire property management company and then just frame it as like, hey, my goal is to make your job as easy as possible, and I'm here to provide the resources and the guidance of the vision, all that kind of thing. And then once it got to the point where, I felt like, okay, I understand property management well, after, having several assets. So, several years down the road, it's like you start to see what things differ between markets and properties, what things
Hmm.
are the same, how to set
Hmm.
up your systems. And then, yeah, then, once you get to the point where either you no longer have the bandwidth or you find that your time is of higher value working on something else, perhaps, then that's when it's time to bring
That's when it's
somebody in.
right.
And so the person that we brought in actually came to us without any real direct multifamily experience. However, she's just one of the smartest, most adaptable, problem-solving people I've ever met. And so that is, we basically just, she just dove in and shadowed
Yeah.
me on calls and learned the systems. And like I said, in a short period of time is better at many aspects of it than I ever was. So,
Well, that's like where
um,
a lot of people say you'd rather have someone that's hardworking and organized and self-motivated, and then teach them what you want them to do versus they've been in that job, but maybe they don't have those. They're not hardworking, driven, and all those things.
yeah, exactly. And candidly, it's been more fun since we since we added a
Yeah.
few more team members too.
Yep.
As
Yep.
long as you add the right people, it makes it more fun too. So.
That's good. I think the same way. But as you grow, everything I hear, Andrew, is that once you get to 500, at least once you get to 1,000 units, you've got to bring property management in house because you're getting ripped off. They're going to fee you to death. You can have more control. You can maybe take that profit for yourself. You can make sure your properties do better. So, why are you still using this model when you're 2,500 units plus? When it feels like so many people say you've got to bring it in house once you get to 1,000 units. I know from knowing you, you don't believe that. So, why?
Yeah, and I'm not, I do strongly believe that for most people you shouldn't. I'm not saying it's wrong or you can't do it, but
Of course.
part of when I look at some of the most successful sponsors that I know that are in the 15 and 20,000 unit range, who have not brought in in-house property
Wow.
management,
Still.
um, for many of the same reasons I'm about to say. I look at what they've done and what they've accomplished, and like that's who we want to be. Their specialty is asset management and acquisitions and analyzing markets and doing all that. So I kind
Yeah.
of see it as, everyone says, well, you have more. And again, the caveat here is you do have to pick the right property management partner. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
All
For
of
sure.
the all of
For sure.
the complaints that you just listed are unfortunately very legitimate and happen way too frequently when you have the wrong property management company. And
Yep.
we had a whole process of how we selected ours. And we, again, that led us to getting the right one, and that's why they've been a partner for a decade now.
Yeah.
So
It's
that
awesome.
that is key. You do have to pick the right one. The wrong one, this will not work. But everyone says, oh well, you have more control. That's a bit of a myth, because really, when it comes down to it, the actual person running the asset, that property manager who's there during the day, every day, they're the ones that have more control than anybody. Because and then
Yeah.
they and the wrong one can defraud just about anybody if they're really if they
Yeah.
know the systems and know what to do, right? So again, the fact that it really comes down to the people on site running the property, you don't have as much control as you think you will. The second thing is, and Lee, you alluded to this before, you know, anybody who could run a halfway decent mediocre property management company the last 6 or 7 years, that's worked out fine, because
Yeah.
the market has been
Yeah.
so stinking strong. It really hasn't mattered going forward. The next several years, asset management and property management is going to be the big differentiator, or one
Yep.
of the big differentiators.
For sure.
You will not be able to get away with mediocre property and asset management the next few years, now that the raging bull market is over. The other thing that kind of goes along with the whole control myth is that people say, well, no one cares about my property, as much as I do. Sometimes that's true, but that also probably means you haven't done a very good job of motivating and the people who are running it for you, because
Mhm.
if you align their interests properly, then they will care about it as much as you do. And in some cases, we've got a couple managers, I'm like, I think they care about it even more than we do,
Yeah.
because I have to tell them, like, don't burn out, go take some vacation. Um,
Yeah.
so the analogy that I like to give is if you're your spouse gets a headache and you go to the doctor and like, hey, we got good news and bad news. Bad news is you've got a brain tumor, we need to take it out. Good news is it's non-cancerous, but we still got to take it out, right? So you are not going to on the day of surgery, you're not going to walk into the operating room, put your hand on the shoulder of the surgeon, and be like, hey doc, you know what? I care about her more than you do. I got this. Like,
Yeah.
caring does not equal
Definitely.
competence, right?
Yeah.
Just because you
Yep.
care more doesn't
Oh
mean
yeah.
you're better at it. So, and to me, it's proper, it's being a good asset manager and trying to infuse that same level of caring with people who have more competence than you do. Now again, with that said,
Great point.
I
Yeah.
do know people who've brought property management in-house, and as far as I can tell, do a really good job with it. So
Mhm.
it's not like it's definitely not oh, absolutely not, you can't make that work. But it's kind of a matter of like, who are you? Are you an investor, or are you a management company?
Yep.
There are some advantages to having it in-house, one of which being, you have fee income no matter what's going on,
Right.
because you're managing the assets. So, and that's why some folks do that, and I think that's perfectly fine. But for me, I see it as we are primarily investors, and property management is a different business. So we're going to
Yes.
be investors who focus on asset management.
Oh yeah. One other thing I remember you telling me, Andrew, was people think, like somebody like me, a couple hundred units, almost 300 units, like 1,000 units seems like so much. And it is. And you said that to me, like, not to downplay it, it is a lot. But at this stage, and when you're getting going, you think, man, I'm going to have like so much pricing power when I'm at 1,000 units. And when I
Nope.
call, the contractor answer, and when I call Home Depot, they'll be ready. But it's really not that much when you think about like being in a city. 1,000 units is like, it's not even a drop in the bucket. 10,000 units, 20,000, 30,000, that is scale. That's pricing power. And, we started working somewhat recently with a property management company that has 14,000 units under management. And they have, I mean, we are fun. Like, they have some serious pricing power with Home Depot. It's ridiculous the prices they get. They're pulling, they've got one property over here that's getting rid of all their white appliances. Our property's fine with white appliances. So they're just bringing them over. And they've got like different things they're doing with cabinets that I've never heard of before, called cinch kits. And you keep the bases, but you put new doors on them and they look brand new. And like, my other property management company, me, like never heard of that. I feel like it's when you get to that size and you've been doing it that long and that high of a level for a long time, and you're managing 10,000 plus, like it's a different level. I'm starting to see that a little bit. That is real pricing power. That's real scale.
Yeah.
It is more like 10,000 than 1,000.
Well, you're absolutely right. So, I mean, that just gets another. I'll give you an example. Is over the years we've had two properties destroyed by hurricanes that we own in Florida, and both times, because our property management company manages about 25,000 units in the Southeast, we got top priority for big contractors to come down from Atlanta
Wow.
and start the renovations right away. Like, we're not
Jeez.
trying to
Yeah.
find contractors. We're not begging them to come down. And we've even had them say, well, this job that you're asking us to do is too small, but because of our relationship with, fill in the blank, we'll do it for you. So
Yeah.
that's another huge factor. And then also, when you're looking for maintenance people and property managers and other staff, you, when someone's evaluating who they're going to go work for, and they say, well, okay, I can work for this company that has 10 people and a couple properties, or 1,000 units or 2,000 units, or I can go work for this company that manages 25,000 with
Yeah.
all kinds of
Yep.
opportunity to move up the ladder if I do well. um there's that's typically perceived as a place of greater opportunity. And so the bigger, within up to a certain within reason, that scale also helps you attract better personnel and better
Oh
team
yeah.
members.
Right.
So again, there's just a lot of factors. It's very easy. Well, I can control it and I care more than anybody. Possibly true, but there's so many other factors to
Oh
consider.
yeah. Yep.
Unless you really enjoy property management, that's another thing too. If you
Right.
really like it, then by all means.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't.
like if you want to build that business, then you can build that business. I've always
Yeah.
said, like, if we ever do it in our company, it's going to be because somebody joins us and that's what they want to do. Because I want to be an asset manager, so I'm going to keep doing that and building that business. If we're ever like partner with someone and that's the business they wanted to build and it made sense, then okay, again, that's a completely different business, and so I'm just going to build this business. But really great conversation. This is really helpful, Andrew. I think this is really helpful. Definitely helpful for me. I think it's helpful for the listeners because I really think this is. I mean, people say you make money when you buy. I think that's true for single family and when you're buying for appreciation and when you don't control the value of the property, like single family, because it's controlled by the market and your neighbors. But in apartments, you control the value of property because you control the NOI, which is how your property. Now, cap rates have something to do with it as well, and you don't control that, but you do control the NOI, and so it's really about how you operate it. And it, you and I are in agreement that get that really good property management company. So this has been really helpful. I do want to transition a little bit, talk about faith, family. What has this journey been like for you on that front, Andrew? How has your family been affected by your real estate investing? And how does faith play a role in your real estate investing?
Well, I mean, it's obviously, faith is a key piece of just how we operate and do business. And aside from the moral aspect, it's just good business, right? So let
Yeah.
me give you an example. The Bible says, "Let your yes be yes and your no be no." It's
Yeah.
pretty simple. So that applies to all the little things. If you tell a broker you're going to call them back on Wednesday, call them back on Wednesday,
Yeah.
right? Even if let's say you talk to them on Monday, hey, I'm going to look at this property, I'll call you back on Wednesday. And you know what? Life happens. You didn't have a chance to look at it. You still reach out to them on Wednesday, said, hey, I'm really sorry. I did not get a chance to look at it, but I want to let you know I still will. I'll talk. I'm looking at it tonight, and I'll call you tomorrow. Right? That still counts. That's fine.
Yep.
So it's just when you show that you're reliable with the little things, then people will it's easier to believe that you're going to be reliable with the big things and
Yeah.
trustworthy. So
Right. Yes.
that has a huge effect. In terms of affecting family, it's been a real blessing that my wife and I work together day in, day out. We have for, oh geez, I guess it's been 15 years now.
Yeah.
I've been able to be home for when the kids were born and as they've been growing up. I still spend more time locked in my office. Well, not locked in my office, but sequestered in my office than I would prefer to. But it's given having our own business and particularly in real estate, It's giving us the freedom to, schedule that works for us. We
Yeah,
can
that's
go
powerful.
on vacation more when we want to. It's a little tougher with the kids in school, but
Yep.
when
It's
we
their
want
fault,
to.
not yours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not necessarily just when, everyone's on vacation at the same time. I surf during the week, usually like on a Wednesday or something like that.
It's awesome.
And when, otherwise, if I had a regular job, it'd be a little tough to do that. And that's again, so I like to go surfing on Wednesday, and then when everyone else is on the beach on Saturday, that's when I'm working. Right. So just
Hmm.
the ability to kind of lifestyle by design.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
still a lot of work. It's still there is risk. It's
For sure.
there's definitely tough
For sure.
days, but
Yeah.
it's that lifestyle by design of kind of integrating and designing work
Yeah.
and family and health and fitness and adventure and all that stuff. Putting those things all together in a way that works really well for you, and that's what real estate has allowed us to do. So.
Yeah. I don't think I knew that your wife kind of works with you in the business. What's that like? What's her role, and how's that been working with her?
It's funny whenever people find that out, they kind of give me that look like, "Ooh, how's that going?" It's actually it's been really well. It's been awesome, and
That's
it's
good.
funny even though we're both working from home all day every day. If I happen to leave for a couple of days, it's always like, "Oh, I miss you," So
Yeah.
it's been really good. It's always good. It's been helpful to have a partner to learn from and bounce ideas off of. And
Oh
back in
yeah.
the very beginning, when I was making those 4,500 phone calls, she would sit there and listen, and then I'd hang up and she'd be like, okay, honey, that was good, but next time maybe you should say this instead or something like that. So I kind
Yep.
of had my own in-house coach there for a while. So it's been it's for us, it's been phenomenal. It's I'd say made us even closer than we probably otherwise would have been.
Yeah. What's her role like now? What is
Oh
she
yeah,
doing?
you're right. So she's basically kind of the behind the scenes.
Okay.
So like all of our, internal entities, she doesn't get involved with the properties themselves or anything
Yeah.
like that, but she's kind of, like I said, all of our internal stuff.
Got
And
it.
then also just all of doing all of the stuff that is involved with life and kids and home.
Oh yeah.
So
Yes.
that I can spend the time, managing
Right.
assets and
Yep.
flying around the
Yep.
country and doing stuff like that.
Got
So.
it. Got it. Wrapping up here, Andrew. I like to ask a couple questions to end to kind of sum up the show. What would you say is a key ingredient to being a successful real estate investor? Maybe specifically to being a multifamily sponsor, to being the general partner on the deal.
Relentless persistence, and then also just, we talked about earlier, let your yes be yes and your no be no, right? If
Yeah.
you're syndicating, that means you're taking other people's money and you're responsible for it. That means you have to be trustworthy and responsible. It doesn't mean you're going to be perfect and never make mistakes, but it does
Yeah.
mean you have to own them when you do and be
Yep.
fully transparent,
Yeah.
both with successes and mistakes. And then just relentless persistence.
Yeah.
It is
Right.
not what, it's kind of unfair that the longer you're in it, the easier it gets. The really hard part is in the beginning and getting
Yeah.
started and building up the ability to buy properties, building up your investor base,
Yep.
building up your asset management expertise and knowledge. All of those things are way harder in the beginning.
Oh yeah.
And so it takes just relentless persistence, not just knowing, okay, again, assuming it's something you do really want to do, and then it's just knowing, okay, it's knowing, well, if this system works, and having the discipline and commitment to relentlessly pursue it until you are able to successfully execute it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I love that way of thinking about it, and I couldn't agree more. Well, what's the key ingredient then, Andrew, while pursuing success in real estate investing? What's the key ingredient for maintaining your priorities? Pursuing your faith in Christ, pursuing your wife, having a good relationship with your kids. What's the key ingredient to making sure those things are happening as well?
I don't know if there's one key ingredient, and that is
Mm.
definitely one of the dangers, right? Because how many times have you heard about or met, the guy who's worth $20 million, but he's overweight and divorced
Yeah. Oh
and,
yeah.
works 100 hours a week and all of that.
Seems like more times than not that's the case.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's almost like that's almost kind of the stereotype.
Yeah.
I think you just have to be grounded in why you're doing it in the first place, and then
Yeah.
also, just be honest with yourself. One of the reasons we did this is so that we could work together and have flexibility and spend more time with each other and all of that. I tend to be very task oriented and task driven, meaning like, okay, I want to get these 8 things done today and have them checked off my list. And spending time with the kids or going is something that's easy to get pushed out, right?
Yeah.
Well, if I can just get this done, and then, well, there's always more stuff.
Oh
So that's
yeah.
something I'm still trying to work on doing a better job at
Yep.
and actually that is one of the, I don't know if it's a downside, but I think that's a particular challenge of having your own business, and especially running that business from home, is
Yep.
personal life and work life. It's just like where it gets hard to define
Yep.
where the two separate, right?
Yep.
When do you be on your phone and not be on your phone?
Oh yeah.
If you stay connected, that means you can go on more vacations, but when you're on vacation, should you be connected? But so I mean, it's just this whole thing, and
Oh, I know.
it really also boils down to the dynamics of your relationships too. So,
Yep.
yeah, and I guess I guess that's what it is. If there's one thing, um, say whoever those most important people in your life are, just be in constant communication with them, of how's it going and what can you do to continue to improve. So like I said,
Oh yeah.
that's one area that I still got to work on. So
Yep. Yep. Oh, me. Yeah. Everything you mentioned there is so true. It's awesome to have the flexibility and control. But yeah, if I had a job that I hated, when I came home, I wouldn't want to do that job anymore. So I'd be open to my family. But since I have a job that I love, and I'm passionate about it, and I can do it from anywhere at any time, like there's no limit to the amount of deals you can look at and underwrite, and you can do it right from anywhere. So, and I like doing it. So
yeah,
I
and that's actually the exact problem when you like what you're doing
yeah,
is it's not like, oh, it's 5 o'clock, I'm done.
right.
It's like, oh, hey, I got 2 hours after dinner. Oh, I could get this done and that'll help this. And it's
Yeah.
actually,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah, it can be tough. No, but I mean, yeah, the thing you mentioned, I mean, that's a huge help for me is that my wife is an extremely driven person. I'd say she has more self-discipline and drive than I do, but she's also just better at being like, yeah, but the kids. And a lot of times the wife is, so yeah, having that partner, to keep you in check and have other people. And then, yeah, talking with your kids, having a relationship with them, and kids will often, kids will let you know that they need more time too. So, well, good, Andrew. Hey, a book recommendation, maybe someone that's getting started. They want to become you, Andrew, but maybe they just got their first one, or they're looking to get their first one. What's a good book recommendation?
I'm gonna give her a short list. I don't think
Okay.
there's one book out there that solves everything. So,
right.
I would say one, David Green's Long Distance Real Estate Investing.
Okay.
If you happen to live in a place like Dallas or Atlanta and you want to, those are great markets and you want to invest in your backyard, great, do that. But don't be limited by geography. And that book, while the focus is single family, the principles are the same, whether you're doing single family, multifamily. So go read that.
Yep.
Dave Lindahl, they're a little older now, but he has 2 books, Multifamily Millions and Emerging Markets. Those are great books for just kind of the basics, kind of like a good overview of the entire process of owning properties and finding markets and all of that.
Yep.
And then if you're going to syndicate and bring in other people's money, I highly recommend Brian Burke's The Hands-Off Investor. It's geared towards passive investors, okay, here's how you evaluate sponsors. However, as a sponsor, it can be very insightful into a lot of the ways that you should do things. And then also it's going to help you understand where investors are coming from,
right,
and how to address the concerns that they're going to have. So even if you're not looking to be a hands-off investor, I actually highly recommend that book to anyone who's going to be syndicating, because Brian put a lot of great stuff in there.
Yep. And he's been doing it for a while.
30-something years. Yep.
Yeah. Before I let you go, I always like to ask my guests before they leave, how might my listeners and I be praying for you in the coming weeks?
Got a big trip coming up that hopefully I will return from safely. That involves some rather adventurous activities, and then also just for wisdom in an uncertain market.
Yeah.
Keep, how to best serve our team and our residents and our investors, what deals to do and not to do. And I think there's a lot of opportunity that's going to be coming up, but there's also a little more risk than there's been in the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah,
So.
those usually go hand in hand. Awesome, Andrew. This has been great, man. Thank you so much for your time and sharing all that with us. I know I learned a ton. I'm sure my listeners have as well. So thanks for coming on today.
All right, good talking with you, Lee.
Yeah, take care.
Thank you for joining us for another great episode. I hope you'll take action on what you've learned today. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider leaving Lee a 5-star rating and review. And check him out on threefoldrei.com. Until next time, 1 Timothy 6:17.